Let's learn a little bit about Microsoft Excel. This is a very useful program in analytical chemistry, but it's even more generally useful for a lot of different things. Some people even track budgets and so forth on this. So it's a great way to manage lists of information, tables of information. So this is a great transferable skill that you will use in courses other than just analytical chemistry. But this comes from your Harris textbook, Quantitative Chemical Analysis, 9th edition, Chapter 2, Sections 10 and 11, which you can find on page 39 through 43, and you should follow along. So you don't need to watch this video to create the spreadsheet in the assignment. You can simply read through the textbook chapters. But if you would like to watch what's going on, feel free to watch the rest of this video, and I will walk you through those sections of the textbook. So our goal here is to create a spreadsheet to calculate and graph the density of water at different temperatures. So as the temperature changes, things expand and contract, and that's going to change their density. So this is the equation that we use. It's the density of water in units of grams per milliliter, and it equals to some parameter a sub 0, we call that a naught, plus a sub 1 times temperature, plus a2 times temperature squared, plus a3 times temperature cubed. This is part of what in mathematics we would call a power series, because our variable temperature is raised to different powers. In this case, we're going to use temperature in units of degrees Celsius, and then the values of those constants for water, A naught, A1, A2, and A3, are listed below. So we're going to use this equation, and we're going to calculate the density of water at different temperatures using Microsoft Excel, and then we'll do a plot, a graph of density versus temperature to kind of get an idea of how the density of water changes as we change the temperature. So that's the plan. So let's move over to Microsoft Excel. You will want to start up Microsoft Excel, so you can find that on a Windows machine by going down here, by going down to the bottom of your Windows, and on the little menu bar at the bottom in the search box, just type Excel. So make sure that you are using a version of Excel that is installed on your machine and not the web-enabled version of Excel that you would get to through our single sign-on portal. So that version of Microsoft Excel does not have all the features that we will need in this course. So make sure you're using the full version of Microsoft Excel. So when it opens up, it starts in this view, and we will want to open up a blank workbook. So select that from the upper left-hand corner there. Give that a double click. There we go. And so this is the Microsoft Excel pane. So what you'll see is that we have tabs up here, File, Home, Insert, Draw. As you change these different tabs, you'll get a different set of menu options down here. This box up here is used to type in information so you can see what you're typing. And I'll tell you about these other features as we go along. So an Excel workbook might have several different what we call sheets in it. And so this is sheet number 1. We can add additional sheets by clicking this plus symbol here, and that's useful if we have several different kinds of calculations that we want to do. What's useful is that we can calculate data from one sheet over to another sheet. We can also, if we want to, by right-clicking on the sheet name, rename it. You can also double-click on the sheet name, and it will highlight it and let you rename it. So whatever you might want to rename it, and then hit enter. And then you can get back up here. So these little boxes that are pictured up here, they're called cells. Each cell has a location in the spreadsheet that is given by a column letter E and a row number 8. So this would be, well, I guess Harris does it in cell B4, so why don't I do that as well? So this is cell B4. And you can type any information into a cell that you want. There are specific types of data that Microsoft Excel recognizes. So if you're just typing letters and numbers, then Excel knows that as a text string. That's what we call that in computer lingo. And so that's just text, and you really can't do calculations with text. You can do things with text like identify what words are in it, what letters, and that kind of stuff, but you can't do math like multiply, add, and divide. Other kinds of information that you can type in, just a number, like 1.2. You can input numbers in scientific notation, like 6.022 times 10 to the 23rd. We use E notation to do that. So the times 10 is represented by E, and then you can go 23. And then you get a really big number, so 6.02. So you can type in a number, hit your enter key or return key, and that will move down to the next cell. So if you type in a number like 60.0 and then you put a unit with it like G, Excel thinks that's a text string because you've included a letter. So the take-home message is do not include units in the same cell as a number that you might want to do calculations on. Excel also knows dates. So like 1/21 or 25/2021. And if I hit enter, then it gives that number out to you like this, and it also knows that you can change the date format here. So up here it says it knows that it's a date, and you can go down here and format what the date is. So I can expand it as a long date, and then it knows that that date was Monday, January 25th, 2021. So it knows stuff about dates as well. All right, so that's just a little quick introduction to how a spreadsheet is organized. So it's organized into rows and columns. So we're going to follow along with Harris to create this spreadsheet. Oh, by the way, you saw that it automatically expanded this column width for me. You can, if you hover over the dividing line between columns, you can drag a column width to be whatever you would like. So you can automatically resize those. Also, if you hover over it and double click, it will automatically adjust itself to the longest thing that's in one of the cells in that column. You can also select columns like this and go up here and click Wrap Text, and that will cause the text to wrap around and grow these boxes inside here to fit all the text so that it doesn't trail out through your spreadsheet in this direction. All right, so anytime we start a spreadsheet, it's helpful to make it readable to someone else. This is particularly useful when we're doing data analysis. So we're going to give each box a title. So I'm going to click into cell A1 right up here, and we're going to give it a title. We're going to call it Calculating Density of H2O with Equation. And since this is from your textbook, we'll say 2-5. So you'll notice that all the equations in your textbook, or many of them, have equation numbers. So there we go. Calculating density of water with equation 2-5. All right. Then we're going to click in cell A2 here, and Harris directs us to give that some information so we know where that equation would be. So we're going to type in from the delightful book by Dan Harris. So Harris suggested that we write that. He's got a sense of humor, which I appreciate. So calculating density of water with equation 2-5 from the delightful book by Dan Harris. So now we've got a title. So the computer automatically will spread the text into the adjoining cell. So it automatically writes out here, even though it's only contained in cell number 1. If we wanted to save our spreadsheet, which we will because you're going to upload this spreadsheet that you create to Moodle so that I can grade it and make sure that you have worked through it and done everything. So we're going to go up to the File menu. We're going to click Save or Save As, and that will bring up a place to save it. So I'm going to save it in my Chem211-S21 folder. And we need to give it a name. So we need a name that we would recognize later. So Intro to MS Excel underscore from H.A.R. Harris textbook. And then another underscore CH211S21 so I know when it was done. All right, good. So we're going to save that. Nice descriptive title that I will recognize when I find it again. So Harris likes to use the convention that anytime you have constants, that would be a number that you're going to use over and over in calculations, that we're going to put those constants in column A. So we're going to collect them all so that they're in one place so that we can always look there and find them again. So we're going to go up here to cell A4, give us a little bit of space here so it's neat and organized. And in cell A4, we're going to type the word constants. And then in cell A5, we're going to type A0, a space, and the equal sign. Then we're going to select cell A6 right here down below, and we're going to type the number 0.99989. Okay, without any extra spaces or anything like I showed in the preview. All right, so we're just going to type that in there. And then in cells A7 down through A12, we're going to continue doing that. entering the remaining constants. We're going to use that E notation to indicate the powers of 10. So let's do that. So we're going to have A2 equals, and then down here we're going to type the constant for A2, 5.3322 times 10, that's E to the negative 5. We'll hit enter. Good. We type our next constant, A3 space equals, and then we'll type in that constant, negative, so type in a minus sign, 7.5899 E to the negative 6, and hit enter. And then our last constant, oops, I'm sorry, I typed those wrong, didn't I? So our first constant was A1 equals, our second constant was A2 equals, and our last constant is going to be A3 equals. And then down in space A12, cell A12, we're going to type 3.6719 E, which means times 10 to the minus 8 power. Good, enter. So now we've entered all of our constants. So a couple of things you'll notice, that right here it said 5.33 e to the minus 5. What happened to all those extra digits that I typed in? Never fear, Excel remembers that. So if you click on that, you can go up and see that number written here. It's written not in scientific notation, but in decimal form, so there are a whole bunch of zeros here. And there's the 5322, so it contains all of those digits. And if we click on this one, then we have all those leading zeros, so written out here in decimal form. So that's helpful. So what we can do to show more digits, and we're going to go to the part of the ribbon that says number. So down here, this little block tells you what each block is kind of about. So we're going to go to the number section. And we're going to click on the little arrow. It's down here in the lower right-hand corner. This will give us more options. So we're going to click on that, and that brings up this little menu. And so this is the Format Cells window. So what we want to do is select for this that we're going to keep it in scientific notation. You can select different kinds of notation here. And then down here, this tells us how many decimal places to display. And we want to display it, let's say, with 4 decimal places. So there we go, 4 decimal places. And so we're going to click on OK. And now we've got the data in the cell. But you'll see it's written out as all these hashtags. If you hover over it, it will show you what that number is. The reason it can't show the number is there's not enough space. So what we're going to do is go up here, hover over the column, the little line between columns A and B, click on that, left click with the mouse, and drag it to the right. All right, so left click and drag. And now you've got all of those digits displayed in a wider column. To do that quickly, though, it's a pain to have to click on each one of these and go back and set the format. So if we click on column A and we go up here to number, right? So in this column, anytime it sees a number, we're going to do it in scientific notation, and we're going to do it with 4 decimal places. So click OK. And you'll see it expands all of those in one shot. Man, isn't Excel slick? So that is awesome. So at this point, your spreadsheet should look pretty much like this. So now in cell B4, right here, we're going to type a column heading that says temperature, T-E-M-P. We're going to have a parentheses, and then we need a degree sign, because this is going to be in units of degrees Celsius. And we can find the degree sign by going to the Insert menu. So here we're going to go on the Insert menu. And if we go over here, you'll see that there's this little button called Symbols. And so if we click on Symbol, that will give us a bunch of different symbols that we can use. You can use this scroll bar to scroll up and down so we can see Greek letters and so forth. So we kind of have to hunt around for the degree symbol. So there it is right here. So just click on that and click on Insert. So you can scroll up and down to find the different kind of letter that you want and insert the symbol. So there we go, we've inserted that, and then you can close the window. So you see it's appeared here. It's also up here in this little window pane right here where it shows what we've typed. And then we're going to type a C, but I just typed it and it didn't appear. What happened? Well, it doesn't know that we're in text entry mode anymore. So what you'll need to do is click up here again, and you'll see the little cursor appearing. And now you can type a capital C, and then you can close the parentheses. So when you're done, you can either hit Enter, or this check mark over here indicating that you want to accept whatever you've typed in here. If you don't want it and want it to go back to what it was, you just type the X to cancel that action. But I'm going to hit Enter there. There we go. So now we've got degrees Celsius. So now what we're going to do in these cells is we're going to enter the temperatures 5 through 40 in steps of 5 degrees. So I'm going to go 5, 10, 15. And here's something cool. If you select these cells right now, and you see this little green square at the corner, the lower right-hand corner that I've just selected there, if you click that and drag it down, Excel will automatically detect the pattern in the numbers and calculate what all those temperatures are. So there we go. Now we've got a little column that says the temperatures in degrees Celsius 5 through 40. Then what we want to do in cell C4, we're going to type another column heading here in cell C4, and that's going to be density. So we're going to type density, a space, and then where do we put our units? In science, you always put your units in column or row headings. So I'm going to put G/M capital L for milliliters, close the parentheses, and click in either enter or the check mark box. So now I'm going to go through, and what I want to do is calculate what the density is using that equation that I showed you on the previous slide. We're going to write a formula. So in Excel, if you need to do calculations, you're going to enter a formula. Very important, formulas always start with an equal sign. So we're going to type the equal sign first. So remember what our formula was. Our formula said it equals A naught. So here's A naught. And then we're going to add to that, so we need to type the plus symbol. All right. So see what I did there? I just clicked on the cell A6, and it inserts that into this cell right here. That's useful. So we can just click on any of these constants to put them in here. But there's a problem. This is called a relative cell reference. So if I was to copy this formula and paste it somewhere else, it would move this reference cell appropriately. So if I move it down 3 rows, it's going to move this box down 3 rows and select a different value. And maybe that's not what I want. So if I want what's called an absolute cell reference, what I need to do is go in and use dollar signs to tell Excel to lock down that cell and not change it. So what I'm going to do, instead of clicking on each of these cells, which is convenient and useful a lot of times, I'm going to go ahead and type it in. So I'm going to type in a dollar sign, and then the symbol A. So that tells it, hey, do not change the column. Always use this same column. Then I'm going to type another dollar sign and the number 6. So that tells it to always use that particular cell. Do not change the column. Do not change the row. So putting a dollar sign in front of the letter or number locks that in place so Excel won't change it. So then I have the plus sign there, right? So I'm clicking up here in this upper box to type in the rest of my formula. So next was the value of A1, and that's in cell A8, right? And so I'm going to type $A, $8. Oh, by the way, Excel doesn't care whether you capitalize these cell reference letters or not. So you could use a lowercase a here and it would work just fine. All right, so then I've got that value. And according to the formula, I need to multiply that times the temperature. So in Excel language and in computer language, multiply is the asterisk key. So find the little star asterisk key, and that means multiply. So times temperature. Now in this case, I can just click on cell B5 right here. Boop. Just click on that. I could also type it in. So actually I want this temperature to change. So as I copy and paste this formula down this column right here, I'm going to want it to use each one of these temperatures in turn. So I'm not going to use those dollar signs as absolute cell references. Then I'm going to have another plus, and now I need the next constant, which is in cell A10. So I'm going to go $A, $10. Notice I didn't capitalize the A, and it recognized it. Then I want to multiply again, so asterisk. Then I need to multiply by temperature squared. So what I'm going to do is click on the temperature, so we're still using this 5-degree value, and then I need to square it. The way we do exponents in Excel is we use the caret key. So on my keyboard, that's above the number 6, so I have to hit Shift 6, and that brings up that little, looks like an upside down V. And then I'm going to type in the number 2, and that's going to square that. Then I need to plus, and I need my last constant down here, which is in cell A12. So I'm going to go $A, $12, and then I need to multiply, so asterisk again, and now the temperature, which is right here in cell B5, so click on that, left click on that, and then type the carry symbol, so shift 6, and then type in 3 because we need to raise that to the third power. So that should be the formula. And so Excel is going to do the calculation for us. This is helpful because we can always go back and check and make sure that the formula looks correct. A1 times the temperature, yes, plus, so A0, right, plus A1 times the temperature, plus A2 times the temperature squared, plus A3 times the temperature cubed. Good. When we like all that, we just hit enter, boom, and Excel goes through and calculates that value for us. Okay, now comes the most magical property of Excel. So doing that calculation in your calculator would be very tedious because you would have to do it over and over again. That's what Excel is really, and other spreadsheets are really good at, is repetitive calculations. So we're going to click on this cell that we just calculated, and we're going to use this little square, this little green square that's down here at the bottom right-hand side of that cell that we just clicked on, and when you hover over it, you see that it changes into a little plus sign. So what I'm going to do is left click with my mouse and drag that all the way down this column until I get to 40, and I'm going to stop and then release the mouse button. When I do that, Excel automatically plugs this formula in here. And let's see if I click on cell C12 right here. Let's check the formula. Yeah, so it's automatically adjusted the cell reference right here, B12, so it's using the 40-degree temperature. So this makes it super easy to calculate the density using a complicated formula at a whole bunch of temperatures. All right, so that is excellent, and that is the magic of Excel. All right, so in this case, I think I'm going to not want these numbers in scientific notation, so I'm going to change the formatting. So what I'm going to do is click on C here to select that whole column. Go back up here to the Home ribbon, so click on Home. Boom. Then go back to the Number section block right here. We're going to click on this little right-hand lower arrow to bring out our Format Cells window. And this time we're going to format it as a number. So I'm going to click number here, so I don't want it in scientific notation anymore. And then I want to say how many decimal places I want it to show. And we're going to display all these with 5 decimal places. So I'm going to say 5 decimal places. You can increase and decrease that. Click on OK. So another way to increase and decrease the decimal places, up here in this ribbon, there's this handy little toolbar right here that will automatically change the number of decimal places that are displayed, either increasing them or decreasing them. So I can change the number of decimal places that are displayed. So now we've got a number here. That's good. It looks like my density label is kind of spilling over into the second column. So I'm going to go ahead and have Excel make this column a bit wider. And to do that, I'm just going to go up here, hover over this dividing line between the C and the D column headings, and I'm going to double click on that. There we go. So now I've got the density label filled in that whole area. So Harris then goes in and talks about other kinds of math that you might need to do. So we've already seen that we can use the regular plus symbol. So let's click on this formula. We can use the plus symbol for addition. We can use the minus symbol for subtraction. The star is multiplication. If we ever need to divide, that's the /, which is underneath the question mark on my keyboard. It's also above the number 8 key in a typical number pad. So if you have a number pad on your keyboard, you can use that as well. So we use the / if we want to divide things. And to make exponents, exponentiation, we use the caret key again. So we've learned about those. Other kinds of mathematical functions. So if you wanted to take e, the number, Euler's number, and raise it to some power, there's a special formula, special function to do that. And the same for things like natural logarithms and base 10 logarithms, sines and cosines, and so forth. So you can get to those by just typing what you think might be that formula, but you can also go up here to the formulas menu, and then there are a whole bunch of different types of formulas. So if you want math and trig functions, you can select on math and trig functions, and here are a bunch of math and trig functions that you might want to use. So we can use, for example, exp, that stands for the exponential function. So it returns, notice if you hover over it, it tells you what it is. It returns e, the Euler's number, raised to some power. If we select CSC, that's the mathematical function that is the cosecant. Here's the cosine. Down here, ln is the natural logarithm, returns the natural logarithm of a number. That's the base E logarithm. Log, right below it, takes the log of a function. Let's see if it'll tell us. It's not showing us that. Let's hover over the log 10. Yeah, log 10 gives us the base 10 logarithm of a number. So I think this one doesn't have a, there it is. Returns the logarithm of a number to the base you specify. If you don't specify, it defaults to 10. So this lets you input a formula where you take the log of a number to some base. So base 10 and base E are pretty common, but maybe you want to do something weird like base 2. Yeah, so you can do that. Take the log of a base 2 number if you're working in something weird like binary. All right, so there are a whole bunch of functions in here that we can use. There's the sine function. Order of operations is pretty important in Excel, so you'll want to be very careful with your parentheses to make sure that things are working out as you intend. So for example, I'm going to type over here in another cell. We're going to do some math here. So I'm going to type in an equation, a formula. So I'm going to type in the equal sign first. There it is. And what I want to do is take 9 and divide it by the quantity 3 times 4 plus 7. Okay, so 9 divided by the quantity 3 times 4 plus 7. Okay, so that's what I just said, but if you hit enter now, you're not going to get the number that you expect. 19, what's that? Well, so what Excel did is it took 9 and it divided it by 3 and it got a number, 3, right? And then it multiplied that by 4. All right, so 3 times 4 is 12. So we get 12 now. And then to that, it added 7. Okay, so it added 7 to that. 12 plus 7 gave us the 19. So we're going to have to be more careful and tell Excel that we want to do this whole thing down here in the denominator in parentheses. So notice how I'm editing the formula by going up here into the little text bar. So I put parentheses around that, but I actually want to multiply 3 times 4 first. Actually I want to add 4 to 7 first. So I need to put a 4 there. And notice that Excel has already figured out, hey, this is the other parentheses for that. So then I need to close out this parentheses because right now it doesn't have one. So I close that out and it highlights it in black. So the red parentheses enclose this inner term, and then the black parentheses enclose this. So now what it's going to do is take 4 plus 7. That's going to give us 11. It's going to multiply that by 3, which will give us 33. And then we're going to take 9 and divide it by 33. And maybe that's what we want it to do. And then we get a very different number. So be very careful when you're doing calculations to use your parentheses so that the order of operations doesn't screw things up. That's really easy to do in Excel. And that's something to pay attention to. It will plague you in this course a lot. It's important to document a spreadsheet so that it's readable for other people. So make sure that your titles are useful. So calling something experiment number 1 doesn't really explain that very well to other people that haven't taken the course. So calling something grand plot experiment or calibration of volumetric glassware makes a lot more sense than calling something EXP1 or something like that. The next important thing that you need to do in a spreadsheet is to tell people what its purpose is, to talk about what formulas were used in the spreadsheet, and so forth. So we want to label our spreadsheet. So to do that, we're going to input our formula. So down here in cell A14, we're going to type in a label, formula. So somebody looking at our spreadsheet would know what formula we used to calculate density. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go up here to our formula that's in cell C5. And you see how all of it appears up here in this text bar, this typing bar. And so what I'm going to do is left click and drag across all that to select it. And then I'm going to copy it. So you can go to the you can copy it from the File menu. You can use Cut, Copy, and Paste buttons up here to the clipboard. Or the shortcut that I always like to use is on your keyboard, there should be in the lower left-hand corner a button that says CTRL, Control. And if you press down that and the C key at the same time, so press down Control C, it will copy anything that you've selected. So that's a shortcut. But you can also just click this copy button right here. Then what I'm going to do is down here in my documentation, see what I just did there? I clicked there and I replaced that whole thing with A15. Don't want to do that. How do we cancel that? Go back here to the X and hit cancel. Now down here in this formula, we're going to type C5 space equals. And now what we're going to do is paste in the formula. So you can use the paste button up here in the menu ribbon, the home ribbon, or we can just type the shortcut. So use that same control key here, but we're going to type V instead, which is right next to the copy C key. So control V will paste that in there. All right, good. So now people will know what formula I actually typed in there. So it looks like I have 2 equal signs in there, so that's not great for readability. So I'm going to delete this equal sign that's in front of that $A there. Click the check mark to say that's what I want. And so Excel will take this as a text string, not as a formula, but it gives people what the formula is if they were looking at this as a printout, let's say. Because if it's a printout, you can't click on one of these cells to see what it is, right? So we might want to document what equations we used at different cells. So that's a great thing to do in your spreadsheet. We're now ready to move on to section 2-11. And as Harris says at the beginning of that section, graphs are critical to understanding quantitative relations. So in science, we use graphs a lot for that very purpose. So we would like to make a graph of this data. Okay, so to make a graph, we can do that in several different ways. So we're going to do it sort of from the most fundamental, build it from the ground up kind of way. So first we want to go to the Insert menu here, and we're going to go up to Insert, and here under the Charts section, so we're in the Insert ribbon, and under the Chart section we're going to select the chart that we want. So there are lots of different types of charts here. The one that we want is this one, the last one. So it's called a scatter XY chart. They also have bubble charts in this list. So we're going to click this little arrow to bring down the graph menu. So the 2 most common types of graph that we're going to use in this class are the one with markers only, or the one with markers connected by smooth lines, or the one with this one selected by points are connected by smooth lines. So we're going to click on this one, connected by a smooth curve. Okay. So Excel has gone in and selected data for us that it thinks is what we want, but it is not. So we're going to, underneath Chart Design, we want to go in and select Data. And what we want to do is that these other data sets that it has generated for us, we're going to click those on. So if there's a check mark, we're going to click Remove to remove them all. All right, so we're going to remove them all one at a time. Now we're going to add our own series. So we're going to click on Add. For the series name, we're going to give it a name Density, and then we want to give it the X values. All right, so we're going to click this button right here to the, so we're going to left click this button to the right of this field to select the X values. So the X values that we want are temperature. So we're going to click and drag down this temperature column, and then we click this button to the right to go back. So now that's there. We're going to do the same thing for the Y values. The Y values will be density. So we're going to click and drag for the density. Click this button, right click, left click this button, excuse me, to go back. And then we're going to click on OK. So now we've got a data set selected. Then we're going to click OK again. Now that we have the basic graph, we can go and do some formatting. So up here on the menus, we want to go to Chart Design Format. We're going to click on the Format ribbon. So that brings up this. And here we have selected the graph, so you see it's outlined with these little dots. So what we're going to do is left click on Format Selection. So that will let us format what we've selected. And then over here you see that we have this pane. It says Format Chart Area. And so we have 2 drop-down menus here for Fill. So we're going to click on Fill, and we're going to select Solid Fill. And then for color, we're going to select White. All right, so that will give us a white background inside this graph. And then for the border, we're going to select a solid line, and we're going to choose black for the color. Black for the color. So then we can X out of this Format Chart Area. And if you click somewhere else, now you see that we've got a white background with a nice solid box around the graph. And so that makes the graph distinctive and look nice in our spreadsheet. Now we want to format the graph a little bit more, so we're going to add some titles and so forth. So under Chart Design, we want to go over here to Add Chart Element. So click this button, left click that button, and it'll bring down a list of things that we can add. So we want to add an axis title. And so we're going to add first for the primary horizontal axis. So there we go. And we get a generic axis title that appears right here. We want to highlight it. So we're going to go in and left click and drag to highlight it and type temperature. And we want to give it a unit, temperature in degrees C. So to insert the degree symbol, again, we're going to go up to the insert menu here, choose symbol, and find our old friend, the degree symbol, and insert that. Close that. And then we've got insert degrees C here, close our parentheses. There we go. So now we've got a label for the horizontal axis. Then to put an axis label on our y-axis, we're going to go back to Chart Design. We're going to add Chart Element. We're going to add an axis title, and for the primary vertical axis. So there's this one. And then what we're going to do is click on this rotated title, and we're going to select everything in there, click and drag, and then we're going to type density, and the unit in parentheses, grams, per the /ml, capital L there, and close our parentheses. So then we've got grams per milliliter. We're going to select the title that appears directly above the graph that says density, and what we're going to do is just remove it by hitting the delete key. So now we've got that axis. Okay. So graph is going to look kind of like this. This little legend down here looks a little bit awkward on the bottom here, so we're going to move that to the side. So we're going to over here legend. We're going to put it instead of none. We're going to put it over here at the right. So we can choose top. It was currently at the bottom, left. So we're going to put it on the right-hand side. And so that just says that these points, what is that? That's density. So that just gives us that label. So let's make some other nice changes so that this graph would look nice when printed out. It's a little bit tricky to read all these values here. So we're going to change some of these values and make it look so that it would look nice when printed out. We want to add some extra tick marks so that we could read, in between the lines here where we have some values and so forth as well. So we're going to click on the graph to highlight all the data points. So just click anywhere on one of these lines, one of these data points, and we've highlighted all of these data points. We're going to select the Format ribbon from the Chart Tools menu. And then here under Current Selection, we're going to click Format Selection. And then we have a Format Data Series window that has just appeared over here. Then for marker options, so we have some different options here. So we're going to click on this one, a little paint can. And we've got lines and markers. Let's click on marker. So for marker options, choose built-in. I'm going to choose built-in options. Then select the type circle. So we've got different types here. We're going to choose the circle, that's what it was. And we're going to choose size 6. We're going to increase the size of those points a little bit. Again, if you don't want circles and you want squares or diamonds or triangles, then you can do that as well. Then for marker fill down here, we're going to select solid fill and a color of our choice. I'm just going to choose black, so we're going to fill it with black. So now we've got black points on there. Then select marker line color, and we're going to do solid again, and then we're going to do So now we're going to go back up here to the marker and the line. We're going to select line now so that we can get the line properties. So for line, we can select solid line. So it already is a solid line, but we can change again the color to something that we want. So now we've got black points and a black line going through there. So we would have a graph that would look nice when printed in just black and white. To change the appearance of the curve on the graph, we can use line color and line style to do that. So down here, we've changed the color, right? We can also change the line style. So we can change it to dashes, those kinds of things. We're going to leave it solid, but we are going to change the width. So we're going to set it at 1.5 points. So 1.5 points is what it was, but we can change this and that will make the line skinnier or fatter depending on what look we want. So we'll go with 1.5 there. And you can see it changing on the graph over here as we change that. And so if you click anywhere in the graph, now we've got just a smooth dark line going through our dark points there. To change the appearance of the y-axis, Click on any number on the y-axis, so we can do that, and they will all be highlighted. Then select the chart tools and format menus. And then we want to format selection again. So we're going to format selection, and this format axis box appears over here on the right. So for axis options, we got axis options and text options. So for axis options, minimum, so our minimum value here, and set the value to 0.992. 0.992 for our minimum. For axis options maximum, we're going to set the value to 1.000. For units, major, we're going to click on the major unit and set that at 0.002. Then for minor unit, we're going to set the value to 0.0004. So we've got units here, the majors, and we'll have minors set, so it's less crowded now, right? So we've made that a little less crowded. We're then going to go in and select tick marks. We're going to select major type to select that to outside. And for minor tick marks, we're going to select that also to outside. Okay, so now you'll see we've got major tick marks here. Those are the ones that have the labels. And then we've got little minor tick marks here in between. So in this same window, now that we've looked at axis options, we've looked at tick marks. So now we're going to go down here to number, and we're going to select category. We're going to leave it as a number. We can also set this to, scientific notation if we wanted, if we had really big or small numbers. But we're going to leave it as number, and we're going to change the number of decimal places. So we're going to set this to 3 decimal places so it doesn't look quite so crowded on our graph here. And then we're going to close the format axis window to finish with this axis. So now we've got a nicely formatted axis with little tick marks on it. So you can see that. So in a similar manner, we're going to select the numbers on the x-axis, select all of those, and change the appearance so that it looks like the figure in your textbook, with a minimum of 0 and a maximum of 40, a major unit of 10, and a minor unit of 5. We're going to place the minor tick marks outside. So let's do all that. So we're going to select that. We go up to Format Selection. Format menu shows up. So Axis Options is our top option. We want to select the minimum at 0. So it is. We're going to put the maximum at 40 because our last data point is kind of there. We'll get rid of this little bit of white space, make it look a little cleaner. 40. We're going to set the major unit to 10. And the minor unit to 5. And then down here underneath tick marks, we're going to place them both, major tick marks on the outside and minor tick marks on the outside. So there they are. You can see these little tick marks right there on the axis. Then we're going to add some vertical grid lines here. We're going to go to the chart design menu. We're going to add chart element. We're going to go in and select grid lines. And so we want to select primary vertical grid lines, major. And so now we've got these grid lines that are horizontal. To do the same thing for the vertical, we're going to go in and add chart element, grid lines, and we're going to do primary, major, vertical. So now we've got these formatted grid lines in here, these kind of gray lines that are at the major tick mark points. Now let's add a title back to our chart. So in the layout menu, we're going to go back to add chart element, and we're going to add a chart title. And we're going to say we want it above the chart, and we're going to call that density of water. So we're going to select this, click and drag. Now we've got a chart title, and we can reformat that if we want to change the font or any of that sort of stuff. So in fact here, let's do that. Let's click and drag on this. We're going to go to the home ribbon, so click on home up here. We're going to go to font size. We're going to set that to 10 points. So it's a little bit smaller. And if we don't like having this little legend here, we can get rid of that too, because it's pretty obvious that we've got density versus temperature, so maybe we don't need that. So we're going to go back to the chart design menu, the add a chart element, and under legend, we're going to say none. There we go. So now we've got a nice graph, nicely formatted. We've got minor tick marks, major tick marks. And there we go. We have a nice, clean looking, nicely formatted graph. So this will be how you will do most of the graphing in this class. Remember that when we go to the Insert menu, we want to choose this graph. Avoid this one that looks much like what you would want. Avoid that like the plague, where it says insert a line or area chart. We do not want that one. So that's used a lot in social sciences and other types of courses, but in most physical sciences we want to do a graph of two variables, so density versus temperature, signal versus concentration, something like that. So make sure that you're using this chart type. A scatter XY plot is what we want. All right, so after you've done all that, you can go ahead and hit File, Save to resave, or you can type a Control S to automatically save for you, and then we're done.